For those of you that love talking about animals, from Sci News, Dracoraptor Hanigani, new species of dinosaur discovered in Wales. Paleontologists have discovered what they say is a new theropod dinosaur that lived 200 million years ago in Wales. So, theropods are the group of three toed, mostly carnivorous bipedal dinosaurs. And now, from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. Welcome to Creature Guide Live Prehistoric News. Hit that subscribe button so we can dive right back into the prehistoric news of the day. So this is taking place about 200 million years ago in Wales. So this is at the first 2 million years of the Jurassic. Let's take a deeper look. A partial skeleton of the new dinosaur, including a skull and teeth, was discovered on a beach near Cardiff. It was analyzed by a team of UK scientists led by Dr. David Martell from the University of Portsmouth and was identified as a new species and genus of the theropod dinosaur. Approximately 40% of a skeleton, including cranial and postcranial remains, representing a new genus and species of basal neotheropod dinosaur, is described. Well, this is good to hear. I mean, 40% is a good estimate, or a good percentage of the skeleton to have. There are many instances where it's like, well, we found part of a rib, we found part of its tail vertebra, and we're going to name it Camposaurus. Okay, much more of the Camposaurus Triassic dinosaur has been discovered, but that's just an example. Um, and it's stating that it's a neotheropod dinosaur. That's a very broad term when it comes to describing a carnivorous theropod. So um, this could be anything. It could be a species of coelophysid. It could be a Dilophosaur. It could be, well, in this instance, it looks more of like just some species of Coelurosaur. Who knows? It could be an early relative of T Rex. So, considering tyrannosaurs were part of the Coelurosaur lineage. It was collected from fallen blocks from a sea cliff that exposes late Triassic and early Jurassic marine and quasi marine strata on the South Wales coast near the city of Cardiff. Dr. Marshall and co authors proposed the name Dracoraptor hanagani for this new dinosaur. Now, let's take a look at another species, the Cetiosaurus, which existed in England during the mid Jurassic, around 170 million years ago. Now, it belongs to a group of sauropod dinosaurs called the Cetiosauridae lineage of sauropods. They only survived for around 15 million years, first evolving around 178 million years ago in England during the early Jurassic, and then mysteriously disappearing around 162 million years ago towards the late Jurassic. There were different species of carnivores that would have hunted them at this point in the period. Despite England and much of Europe being a series of islands, you still had dinosaurs such as Cetiosaurus, which could reach over 52 feet in length, or pushing 16 meters, and weigh around 12 tons, and probably roaming in herds of at least 10 to 15 individuals. So it was a medium sized sauropod, but for the ecosystems it inhabited, it was one of the largest creatures. So let's head back to the article. The genus name Dracoraptor is from Draco, alluding to the dragon of Wales, with raptor, meaning robber, a commonly employed suffix for theropod dinosaurs. It always matches. The species name honors Nick and Rob Hannigan, who discovered the skeleton. I will say, though, this is a very intact tooth. Is that from? Yep, that's from Dracoraptor. Look at those serrated edges. It is interesting. This looks a bit like a sort of a thick, in some cases, somewhat blunt sort of a tooth. I wouldn't say too steak knife like, but I'd say more steak knife like than certain species of tyrannosaurs or even certain species of the later abelisaurs of the Cretaceous. Let's keep going. According to the paleontologist, Dracoraptor hanagani was a small, agile carnivore, about 2.3 feet or 70 centimeters tall, and 6.5 feet or 2 meters long, with a long tail. I mean, for the time, it wasn't a large predator, but I'd say it was in the medium sized realm. Um, so this is approaching something like Coelophysis. Actually, no, Coelophysis is a bit larger than this. I'd say this was somewhere in the lines of a smaller dromaeosaur, something like Velociraptor. But this animal seems probably a bit more heavily built than Velociraptor, but likely not jumping on anything. limbs don't look like they're too suited for, um, causing a lot of damage. This animal might be focusing on different species of amphibians, smaller crocodilomorphs, or even feeding on different species of insects, smaller pterosaurs, or gobbling up dinosaur hatchlings. Now let's take a look at another individual, the Polycanthus, which inhabited England around 125 million years ago during the early Cretaceous period. It did coexist with different species of iguanodontid at the time, as well as likely a different species of dromaeosaur closely related to the Utah raptor over in North America. But this was slightly later after Utah raptor had evolved. So Polycanthus could reach somewhere around 16 feet in length or pushing a little over 5 meters and weigh somewhere around 1,500 to 2,000 pounds. So around 1,000 kilograms. And this individual is a member of the Nodosaur lineage of ankylosaurs. So this animal did not score a club tail and put most of its weaponry into the spikes on both sides of its tail, as well as practically both sides of its waist, and even the neck was heavily spiked. In this illustration, actually, they give it a very heavily armored neck. Actually, this they gave it a very roundish sort of a snout. The Polycanthid had a somewhat narrower sort of a snout. This seems a bit broad, but besides that, it's a very good illustration. The toes are done right. You have three clawed toes and two blunt ones. Very good musculature. I mean, these essentially, I wouldn't necessarily compare them to turtles, but they did have just simply a very wide sort of structure to them. And Kylosaurs used to be portrayed as a bit like an armadillo or almost like a glyptodon. So the giant armadillos of the Pleistocene and the Pliocene epochs or time of the Ice Age. And in more recent decades, the ankylosaurs have been restructured as having more of a wide sort of a gait. And then the background, you have a baryonyx. So this would take place probably around 130 million years ago in England. Baryonyx was one of the top predators, but mostly focusing on hunting different species of fish. And then you have other species of sauropod, distant relatives of the previous Cetiosaurus. It was long after the animal went extinct. Some species of other carnosaur in the background. Technically, Baryonyx is a carnosaur and a relative of the pterodactyl pterosaurs. Some species of crocodilomorph over here. Can't make it up the species. Lonely turtle. Anyway, let's head back to the article. Let's see. It was a distant cousin of. Oh, okay. So this is a species of Coelurosaur, considering it's saying it was a distant cousin of T Rex, and lived at the beginning of the Jurassic period, approximately 200 million years ago, possibly making it the oldest Jurassic dinosaur in the UK or even the world. Wow, I thought that there were much older individuals found. That's interesting. The specimen, oh, we're talking about whales. Okay, that makes sense. The specimen also represents the most complete theropod dinosaur from Wales and the first dinosaur skeleton from the Jurassic of Wales. Um, that's interesting. I thought that we already had certain complete dinosaurs from Wales. Well, this is really good to hear.
Well, remember, it's an older article.
Yeah, well, that is true. But even at this point, I'm just still in quite shock. The specimen also represents the most complete theropod dinosaur. Oh, I already said that. It is thought that the fossil was from a juvenile animal, as most of its bones are not yet fully formed. The Triassic Jurassic extinction event is often credited for the later success of dinosaurs through the Jurassic and Cretaceous, but previously we knew very little about dinosaurs at the start of this diversification and rise to dominance. I would say the Jurassic, well, the end of the Triassic, so the Triassic mass extinction, really had an effect on different species or other groups of archosaurs, whereas the dinosaurs just continued to increase in variety. Whereas the different Rausuchians, the different or Pseudotsuchian crocodilomorphids ended up having a massive die off at that point. And then other types of crocodilomorphs would either increase in variety or they would go extinct as well. You also had different types of marine reptiles in the ocean that would end up going extinct. different early relatives of turtles as well. Now we have Dracoraptor, a relatively complete 6 foot long juvenile theropod from the very earliest days of the Jurassic in Wales. So it's possible, though, he might have become even larger, so possibly pushing over 8 feet. So let's take a look at another individual, the Eotyrannus, which existed over in England around 120 million years ago. So this individual was existing a bit after Polycanthus, as well as the Baryonyx, the certain dromaeosaurs within the region, other sauropods. This individual is not as small as it appears. This animal could actually reach about 15 feet in length, or pushing a little over 4 meters, and was probably feeding on smaller species of dinosaur within the area, probably focusing on different species of ornithopod. This is what on earth? This is supposed to be an Eotyrannus. Looks like someone took a moa and then gave it a uh, I think took off the crest, but gave it like a Proceratosaurus sort of a skull structure. I don't know what to make of this. I mean,
Probably my fault. I probably took one that was incorrect.
um, yeah, I don't know what to make of that. Oh yeah, the Eotyrannus as well as its close relative Eutyrannus had quite large arms compared to their body size and much larger compared to later descendants of the lineage. This is also not a member of the Proceratosaur lineage of the Tyrannosaurs, which would have gone extinct a bit shortly beforehand. Um, Now, Eotyrannus, when it comes to the weight of this animal, is quite lightly built. I mean, the tyrannosaurs at this point were not very dense, so probably not reaching much more than 300 to 350 pounds, or a little over 150 kilograms, and mostly carnivorous. So, let me know what's your favorite.
I started thinking he looks kinda like an emu.
Yeah, something like a emu and or a moa, elephant bird, just his overall plumage and very stocky legs. So, but when it comes to his skull, it's some smaller species of theropod dinosaur, except the bottom jaw isn't aligned with his upper jaw. I mean, at least they gave him lips, but I'm not really sure what to make of this. Maybe it's another species of carnosaur. So let me know what your favorite species of English dinosaur is in the comments. And from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guide Live Daily News. Remember to like, comment, subscribe if you love talking about animals, and share this show with everyone you know, because nothing is better than all animals all the time.